little different. There was no sound before? Now the sound works? You're checking? Okay. Perfect. So if you just hang this key on a hook and put it on your belt or on your what's that called, the belt loop, a loop that you keeps your belt on your pants, that's not good enough. That's just hanging on. That's external. It's not jewelry. It's just something. It's a burden. You're not allowed to carry it on Shabbat. So what does it mean when you make a belt? So you tie a string over here through the hole, and it goes around your pants. You come around, and then if you tie the other end of the string here, so you see that the key is part of the belt. It's an integral part of the belt, and so that's why it's not just, you don't want to be attaching it, making it to here, because then you're just carrying the key. But if you make it an integral part, then that's a kosher way to carry your key.
I saw it one time. One guy had, he had a thing like this, and the key, and I was like, hey, why you have this key? He said, yeah, because we're from another city and the roof, so we sure he had this key like a belt.
Like a gartel. Yeah, okay. Some people have a tie pin that's made specially. There's different systems, but you got to be careful not to carry if there's no eruv. Anyways.
But in Jerusalem, I can carry it in the yeshiva, okay?
Yeah, Jerusalem is an eruv, yeah. In this area, maybe there's even 2 eruvim, as we said yesterday. By the way, Noach is watching us in Austria. I'm pointing at the camera. And he wrote me yesterday with an interesting question. He says, I have... he also sent me that there's an eruv in Austria, and there's a website you go to every Friday to check, is it up? It's been checked. Is it still complete? Because strings tend to get broken by the wind or by a truck that passes by. It's too tall or whatever. People don't know it's there, so you have to check it to make sure if it's that kind of eruv. Anyways, and then he asked me the question: can I walk outside the eruv when wearing my glasses? Well, we said glasses. That's part of your clothing, your dress, right? What about sunglasses? We said sunglasses. No. He says I have clip-ons. Yeah. I actually have clip-ons too, but mine are magnetic. And the question is, can you wear these on Shabbat? Outside the eruv. Like this cute little magnet. That's why I like them. They're easy to put on and off. I go in a tunnel, I just take them off. But he asked me about the old form of clip-ons, is you clip them on, some clips, and then you flip them up. Remember those? Yeah. Remember those? So not so many people do that anymore, but some people do. Anyways, is that allowed? Can you walk around outside the eruv like this? If it's on, I guess, and you're using it, so that's part of your glasses. It's what helps you see. Then I imagine it would be allowed if it's on. The problem is something you constantly take on and off. There's a danger that it gets cloudy all of a sudden. I won't remember it's Shabbat, and I'll put it in my pocket, and I'll be carrying it. But the clip-ons, they don't come off. I mean, they do come off, but you don't use this guy. Anyways, says he doesn't take them off. No. He leaves them always clipped on. When it's cloudy, he just flips it up like this. So is that allowed? So he read two opinions. One opinion, rabbi, a Chabad rabbi somewhere, and I'm not sure from where, Petach Tikva or something, and he said that it's not allowed. It's considered carrying, because when you're not using them, so they're just attached on. It's like a key on your belt. It's like a loop, a key on a loop. It's a burden. But he found that in a classic of halacha, it's a whole new genre of literature that cropped up in the modern times. The first modern book of halacha in the 20th century is called Shmirat Shabbat Gilchata. We have it in translation in the English library, many copies as well into English. Shmirat Shabbat Gilchata, guarding the Shabbat, keeping the Shabbat according to the halacha, as according to its halachas. And it was written by Rabbi Neuwirth. Rabbi Neuwirth was a big student of the great Rabbi Shlomo Zalman Auerbach, who we've mentioned here before, one of the greatest poskim of our day. He died about 20 years ago, but in the day, Rabbi Neuwirth put together this halacha book on this topic, only the laws of Shabbat. He started with 1 volume, came 2 volumes, and then they added a third. Now they publish it as 1 volume. And almost every line in there, he quotes his great rabbi, Rabbi Auerbach. He relates specifically to this question. He speaks about those flip-up, clip-on sunglasses, and he allows it. He says it's allowed, it's considered to be part of the glasses. You don't have to worry, because if you never take them off, well, not these kind. These kind you take off, totally take off, and you'd carry them. But if you're wearing the other ones, and it's you just pick them up and put them down, he says it's allowed. And I didn't do anything. I didn't do it. This was all the research of Noach. And he said, he asked me what I think about it. I think it's great. I think if Rav Neuwirth, his Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata is very authoritative. It became widely accepted among the Jewish world. And if he says it's allowed, for sure it's allowed. Especially since we're not sure we have a Reshut Harabim Midoraita. We're not sure. At some places there's not enough 600,000 people. The roads are not so wide. So it could be that there's room to be lenient. If it's a rabbinic law alone, then for sure there's room to be lenient. If there is such a great posek who clearly says that's allowed, you can rely on that. But Yeshar Koach to Noach. He listens to our classes, apparently religiously, and it's like Yisrael is in Brazil. Now he's with us in person. We hope Noach will come in person soon as well. And maybe there's others out there who are listening to our shir. And more than happy to get your comments and questions. And it's a treat. What does he speak about? On what page? What page? 124. What does he say?
He called Yaku Yosef.
Clip-on glasses. He may wear them. In Rav Melamed it says it as well. Okay, so Noach, if you're listening, he quotes, SSK is Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. On page 124, if you have it here in this volume 2 of Shilchot Shabbat, Laws of Shabbat, volume 2, it's chapter 21, section 12. After the end of the first paragraph, it says SSK. That stands for Shmirat Shabbat Kilchata. And afterwards, he also says Rav Ovadia Yalkut Yosef is collection of Piskei Halacha of Rav Ovadia Yosef. There might be more in the English library, but you can also get it online. But okay. Okay. We need to skip now to chapter 30, the last chapter. The last chapter is, as I said yesterday, the true meaning of the word eruv. Actually, 29 speaks more details about how to make an eruv, how you transform a public domain into a private domain with tzurat hapetach, the form of a doorway, and details about if you ever want to build one, you should learn chapter 29. There's one more. There was one more law about turning this public area into a private area. By the way, we didn't mention that we said that it has to be a fence or a wall or a makeshift fence with a string. Also, if it's a steep cliff, it's considered to be a wall in halacha. So if you have a city which has cliffs around it, that could be helpful. You have to walk around to make sure that the cliffs go all the way around. But any mountain which is steep enough, the Talmud says that if it goes the height of 10 amot within 4 tfachim, that's steep enough to be considered to be a wall. You see, the slope is, he doesn't say what angle that is, but there's one more issue that you have to know, and this would be a good segue. Look on page 290, please. On page 290, and this is something you may not be aware, that it happens everywhere where there's an eruv. In every city, every town, they make an eruv. They also have to do, that's what we've been talking about up till now, tzurat hapetach, really, the form of a doorway. But on page 290, there's an additional part. In order to turn it, the public domain, into private, there's an additional little trick you have to do. The people who live within the area have to be partners. Yeah, I can see it might be hard to make an eruv in a modern day city. People don't like each other. People don't talk to each other. How are you going to make them partners? Luckily, we can give people. So you have to have, the way it's done is you have communal food. You have bread owned jointly by every resident of the enclosed area. How much is enough? If you have more than 18 residents, you have to have 2 meals worth. And we have a definition of how much you have to use. Volume of 6 eggs, volume of 8 eggs. That's really what's called an eruv. The eruv is the bread, because the bread makes people partners. Eruv means mixing, merging. So we merge together with bread. So I was once a rabbi in a town, and we had one eruv together with the next town. It was walking distance. The kids would walk back and forth every Shabbat, and we had an eruv which surrounded. There was actually 3 towns, but so the rabbi of the central town, he showed me, here is our eruv. He didn't go walking all the way around. I did that with his permission, of course. But he took me to the Beit Knesset, and in the Beit Knesset there was a box of matzah. Matzah doesn't go bad, right? It can last for a whole year. Every year before Pesach, he switches it with a new box of matzah, and the box of matzah he sets it aside for food for all the residents of the city. So we're all partners, and that's what you need when you have 2 different Reshut HaYachids. Like you have an apartment building. It's all Reshut HaYachid, but every house has its own house. You can't carry there, even though it's all within 4 walls, because one apartment belongs to one person, another apartment belongs to another person. You have to make an eruv. An eruv, which merges them together with some communal food. If there's a communal dining room, who was with me when we went camping at the beginning of the year? Micha, were you there? Only Micha, wow. We went camping with Machon Meir. You were there too, Stephen. We went camping in Kashuela. Yes, you were there with your family and kids, I remember. You can't remember? Before Rosh Hashanah, the last Shabbat of the year. Yeah.
Without Rav Liesman, right?
He wasn't there. Right?
Yes, it was with Rav Weinstein.
Well, that's right. And Rav Rothman, it was before Rosh Hashanah, yeah.
The tents, right?
We had tents, right? Big tents, small tents, right? Exactly. Teepees and all sorts of lots of fun. Anyways, there was an eruv there around. We saw the lines, actually. It was very cool. And we talked about, do we have to have food? Well, we had communal food. We had meals for everybody together. So that was communal food with no question whatsoever. You make a bracha when you set aside that eruv. Just you do it once a year, really. But the problem is sometimes when you live in a town, not everybody wants to participate in the eruv. Maybe there's somebody who's very anti. It happens. People get angry about religion. I don't know if you've come across this. You're laughing, yeah. You've seen this around. Some people say, I don't want to join your eruv, I don't care what you say. But I won't be able to take my stroller out of the house. I don't care. I don't like religion. I hate God. I hate you. Go away. What are you going to do? You can't carry. You think that's going to stop us? Love conquers all. No, really. What the the situation, the solution that we've come up with in Israel at least. The common solution is or what if there's not somebody who's so anti, but he's just not Jewish. He's not Jewish. So he can't be part of the Eruv. And so one solution is to rent out their house. Sort of like we just had signing a rental contract just before. You can rent out their house and it belongs to a Jew, and then the Jews. But what if they don't want to? So our last resort that sometimes we rely on is the chief of police. I actually saw the letter. I don't have it anymore, I think. The chief rabbi went to the chief of police and he said, I need access to everybody's home in the entire country. And the police, they have permission. Search warrant. The truth is they need a warrant. They say it's really, a technicality, but the custom is to be lenient because at a time of war, or when there is an emergency, the police can break down the door and go to anybody's house. And so if the chief of police is willing to rent out or that right and to join the Eruv, then we can share the ownership, and the custom is to be lenient about that. Yes, Eitan.
If I understand good, it's like if you're not Jewish, you can buy a house in the Eruv.
You can, but the Jews that are in the Eruv have to find a solution because they have to have permission to trespass where the non-Jew lives as well. So they have to go over to him, knock on his door and say, listen, can you give us, nobody's going to come into your house, but technically we need permission to use your apartment on Shabbatot. And hopefully he'll give us permission. Otherwise, it's hard to make an Eruv. You need to have that food. There's another reason people don't rely on the Eruv, because you see that it's a little bit tough. If everybody's in a small town and they're all in it together, you can make one big house. But when it gets to be more complicated socially, and the structures are bigger, and the areas are bigger, and more mixed population, it's harder to rely on that. Yes?
But is this only in the land of Israel? Because in Amsterdam they also have Eruv around the whole city. But this is only a small community.
Who said there's an Eruv around the whole city?
Of not around the whole city, but the Rav showed me was around the highway and around other houses, and there don't live Jews.
Oh, I don't know. Maybe they reached an agreement with the authorities in that area. Maybe they reached some kind of agreement, because you have to have the food, which is shared by everybody. Last thing I want to say about Eruv before we go into chapter 30 is that sometimes there's a storm, and in the middle of Shabbat, before Shabbat, you check the Eruv and it's all there, and then there's a storm and the wires come down. Can't carry anymore. If there's no Eruv, you can't carry. You can't things in or out from Rishut Yachid to Rishut Rabbi. Even if it's a rabbinic, it's still forbidden rabbinically to carry. So sometimes it happens. So as I said, in big cities, they have a website. You check the website every Friday, but you're not going to check the website on Shabbat, I hope, right? You don't use electronics on Shabbat. So, but let's say you live right near the Eruv and you see that the line went down. You have to stop carrying. Make sure you have a special key belt or some kind of mechanism where don't lock your door that day or whatever it is. But
are they carrying? How do you deal with it? You just
good question. Yeah, so you have to put it down wherever you are, whatever you have in your pockets. When somebody tells you on the way to shul, did you hear the Eruv went down last night? Because there was a big truck that had a car accident and it smashed into the pole, and there's no more Eruv. Did you hear? Uh-oh, you look, I got stuff in my pockets, I've got my talit, I've got my sidur. Put it down where you are, leave it there. Hope for the best, come back after Shabbat, maybe it'll still be there. But you can't carry if there's no Eruv. The question is, some people are not able to be so brave. This talit cost me hundreds of shekels. And the bag is a special bag that was embroidered by my grandmother. And I have the key to my house. I can't get into my house. And the food for my Shabbat, I won't have anything. So they say, I'm not listening to you. And they'll go ahead and they'll carry anyways. So it's very hard. So there's a debate. Most rabbis say that in such a situation, if you know it for yourself, don't tell anybody. Don't tell anybody. There's a principle, it's better that people violate the halacha without knowing, unwittingly, than to violate the halacha wittingly. If you, in your estimation, and the estimation is that many people won't be able to withstand such a temptation to lose their property in the middle of where they're going, or not to be able to get in their house or out of their house, or to go to shul, or to change their normal lifestyle. Most people would have a lot of problem with that, and so they won't listen. They won't listen. They'll violate the Shabbat wittingly, on purpose. Better that they should violate the Shabbat unwittingly. And so we don't publicize it usually. Unless you're in a very small group and you know that everybody's really from and everybody's going to listen to you, and they can do it, then of course you're not allowed. You're not allowed to carry if there's no Eruv. So only those special people who really will follow the halacha, you should tell them, you're really not allowed to carry right now. I was once in a town and we were having a shiur in the park. There was a rabbi teaching Torah to a group of people, and everybody had their books with them. And someone came over to him in the middle of the shiur and says, I'm told we have to leave the books here. We have to go now to Mincha, go to the shul, go on to the next part. Just leave everything where it is, because there's no more Eruv. Eruv came down. So sometimes you tell people, but sometimes you have to make that estimation of is it worth it or not. So, okay. Chapter 30. Chapter 30 is called Techum Shabbat. Techum Shabbat is that really comes from a pasuk in the Torah. You're not allowed to leave your place. Your place is considered, right? If you look on page 298, it quotes the Torah in the Israelites in the wilderness. Let everyone remain where he is. Let no man leave his place on the seventh day. So according to many opinions, this is a Torah law, that you're not allowed to leave the city. And according to others, however, this is only, that refers to what we talked about up till now, the laws of carrying and Reshut HaRabim. But all the boundary restrictions are rabbinic laws. There's debate whether this is a rabbinic law or Torah law, but there's a few levels. For sure, even people who say it's a Torah law, it's only a Torah law to go outside of 12 mil. Mil is ancient Roman sort of, it's approximately a kilometer. 12 kilometers outside the town, the perimeters of the town limits, you're not allowed to walk. So you can't go for a long, long walk outside the city. If you're inside the city, it's fine. That's called the perimeter. That's the city. That's the place where you live. But Techum means boundary. So everybody, when Shabbat enters, has a Techum Shabbat, a boundary for Shabbat. The place where you're spending that Shabbat. That place could be an entire city. As long as there is a continuum of houses, one after the other, then you include all that. You can see in the next picture on page 299, you square the Tchum. And then, so you have so as I said, the Oraita, maybe you're not allowed to go 12 mil out. But rabbinically, the rabbis added a stricture that you're not allowed to leave the perimeter of the city 2,000 amot, which is about 1,000 meters. It's about 1 kilometer. Right? Not 12 kilometers, but even 1 kilometer outside the city, you're not allowed to go. You can see how we calculate this 2,000 amot on page 300. It's a picture there. Now, if you're not in a city, if you're, let's say you're just, you're camping. Shabbat comes, and you have your tent. You, first of all, you're not allowed to carry, like we learned yesterday. So you have to make sure not to take things in and out of the tent. Tent is considered to be a Reshut HaYachid. And the forest, wherever you're camping, is considered to be a Carmelit, probably. It's a rabbinic prohibition. And you can't carry there. But besides that, let's say, okay, I'll leave my pockets empty. I just want to go for a nature hike. You can go. You have 2,000 amot in every direction. 1 kilometer here, 1 kilometer there. But your place of residence is considered to be where you are. 4 amot. You have 4 amot. As the pictures on page 300 show you that you have 4 amot if you're not in a city. And from there, you get 2,000 amot in every direction. And it's very interesting. Everybody has their own techum. Everybody has their own boundary. For Shabbat, you have 2 different people here on page 301, pictures where you have 2 houses which are not part of a city, but they overlap. Some of their 2,000 amot with each other overlap, so they can share their meal. But if it doesn't, it doesn't. Okay? There's more details here about exactly how to calculate very complicated geometry here. Times which we don't square the city, overlapping squares, and basically you don't walk outside the city limits more than a kilometer is the general idea. Now there is a special allowance. Let's say you live in a town over here. Okay, here's your town. And then you've got, okay, I want to go outside 2,000 amot, right? I'm allowed to. That takes me to here. Okay, 2,000 amot takes me to here. Now the problem is, over here there's another city. And in this city, there's, of course, houses as well. And you'll hear before Shabbat, there's a great rabbi that's coming. And he's going to be teaching on Shabbat. And there's going to be beautiful singing. And maybe there's a chazan. I really want to get to this other city. The city A. And I'm in city B. But my 2,000 amot only allow me to go up to here. What can I do? So there's a solution. The solution is, this is another usage of the word eruv. So far we've had 2 usages. One yesterday, it's really supposed to be called tzurat hapetach, the form of a doorway, right? That's what commonly is called an eruv. It's really a misnomer. Today we learned the second meaning of the word eruv. It means food, which makes everybody join together within that tzurat hapetach. The third meaning of the word eruv is also food. You take some bread. We'll see exactly what you take. You take some food, and before Shabbat, you put it over here. Before Shabbat. Yeah, obviously you put it in a little box so it doesn't get eaten, doesn't get ruined. And what that does, is that you say to yourself, this Shabbat, my home is not this one. This is my home. And what that means is that I've got from here 2,000 amaz in every direction. So I've got the 2,000 amaz, I can go back to my house. Right? The minute you're inside the perimeter, you can walk anywhere within the perimeter. So I've got the 2,000 amot to go back to my house. But then I'm going to get another 2,000 amot to go to listen to the rabbi's speech. So this is called an eruv also. Eruv techumin. Techum, we said, is boundary. So this mixes the boundaries. You can extend your boundary, basically. But it's called an eruv techumin. Now, just for fun, this is a classic brain twister. Let's say there's another town over here, town C, and there's, same thing. You can only get up to here, and there's, if you put an eruv here, then you'll be able to go to town C. Okay? Now, before Shabbat, you hear that there's a great rabbi coming to the region. But you don't know if he's coming to town A or to town C. So if he's coming to town A, you'd put your bread over here. If he's coming to town C, you put your bread over here, and then you'd be able to extend your where you can walk to, your tachum, your boundary, you can extend it in that direction, either direction. So the Talmud says the following. It says, put bread down in both places. Make 2 eruvin. Make 2 eruvs, and make the following condition. It says, if the rabbi comes to town A, this will be my eruv. And if the rabbi comes to C, this will be my eruv. I'm going to find out later, after Shabbat has already entered, but I can make such a condition that, dependent on the information I get later, my eruv will be this one or that one. It's called yesh brera. It's a sort of like retroactive activation of the eruv in the direction that's useful to you. Amazing.
Eruv only can be bread?
So we're going to talk about what it has to be. Not only bread. You're right. There's other things too. But anyways, the concept of eruv techumin now, which is the third meaning of the word eruv, we just said. This is extension of the boundary with bread. Now, yes?
I don't really quite understand this, the hook. You say extension of the, it's like outside the eruv.
Right. You definitely can't carry there. But can you walk there without carrying? You're not allowed to walk outside of a certain boundary, outside of where your residence is. If your residence is the city, so the whole city you can walk, but you can't walk outside more than 2,000 amot.
From the eruv.
From the border of the city line, even if there's no eruv. Wherever the border of the city line is, wherever the last house is. From the last house, you've got 2,000 amot. Even if there's no eruv. Yeah. What we call an eruv. Okay, so then, now, Ravid is asking a good question. Take a look on page 316. This is also a very tricky business. I hope you'll like it. Page 316.
Rabbi,
Yes, sir.
Have to be fresh, or
We're gonna see right now. It doesn't have to be bread. This one doesn't have to be bread. It has to be 2 meals, which is 6 eggs or 8 eggs. But the trick is, if one wishes to use food that is eaten together with bread, it's sufficient to use the amount of that food which would normally be spread on or eaten together with 6 volumes of bread. If the eruv is meant to serve several people, right? You have a whole group of a yeshiva students who want to go to see the rabbi, not just one person. So you have to have enough food for all of them. So to have, what are you going to put, 10 loaves of bread, 100 loaves of bread? Very impractical. The solution is, don't put the bread. You put the food which is eaten on the bread. Spread. Basically, you take a jar of tahina or a jar of peanut butter. Peanut butter, 1 jar can be spread on, 100 pieces of bread. So it's enough for everybody. He says here, olive oil, chocolate spread, peanut butter, relatively small quantities. These foods are used, and also you could use vinegar, you could use it as dressing, tiny little drop, and therefore that's a trick used if you want to extend how far you can walk outside of the town on Shabbat. You make a bracha, as you can see on page 317, Baruch Hashem Elokeinu melech haolam shekidshenu mitzvah v'tzivanu al mitzvat eruv. And then you say, with this Erev, it shall be permitted for me to walk 2,000 amot from this place in every direction. Or you can just say, this is an Eruv. Okay, so this is a third meaning of what the Eruv is. And he talks about the conditional Eruv that I just mentioned. And with that, we finished chapter 30. Questions about Techum, the boundaries of the Shabbat. Yes, Aaron?
This kind of Eruv is for one-time use, or you can
One-time
use
use.
for one Shabbat?
Well, if the peanut butter stays there, but every Erev Shabbat you have to decide where your home is. Is your home in your own home? The difference is, the problem is, because if you do decide that this is your Eruv, that'll extend your Eruv in this direction, but it means you won't be able to go at all past the city here. You have 2,000 to get back to the city, but you won't be allowed to go in the other direction at all, because this is your 2,000 amot and the other 2,000 amot in that direction. So usually most people have their homes where they live as their place of residence. If you want to extend it in one direction, it costs you in the other direction. So people don't usually use an Eruv unless they continually have a park that they want to go to in that direction. So you could maybe make one forever. I don't know. That's a good question. Yeah, I don't know. Usually it's only done ad hoc, per Shabbat, if you have a specific
for
need.
example, if you put a box of wrapped matzah.
Right. Like for the Eruv.
You use it for a whole year. Is it possible? Like you don't actually go there and this Shabbat now. Okay, next
I
Shabbat,
think it
next
should be.
Shabbat.
I think it should be. Yeah, as long as you realize it, you can't walk outside the city in the other direction. You're extending it in only one direction, not the other direction. I do want to say there's a fourth meaning of Eruv. But I'll take Eitan's questions first. Yeah.
I have a question. If you have like the Eruv and the 2,000 amot,
Correct.
and you walk, and you have like the Eruv from E, they have also 2,000, and it's connect. Can you walk?
No.
No. You have
It's
to-
personal. It's personal. They can walk to meet you. You could have a party over here together with each other if you overlap a little bit, but you cannot hitch a ride with him to go beyond wherever your boundary ends up.
so you need to put your bread to make another 2,000.
That's right. Your bread's there. You can go another 2,000 amot. Yeah. Chaim.
Yes. So when I'm in North America, I do a lot of solo camping and hiking in
Cool.
the wilderness.
Yeah.
And I bring a roll of string with me.
Build your own Eruv.
Down like
Yes.
this.
Yes. I've done it.
Okay.
Not once and not twice. I like camping too with the kids. Camping on Shabbat it's a little tricky. Other than the problem of the Eruv, which you can build your own Eruv, and you have to learn a little more laws. Read that chapter carefully if you're actually going to put it into practice. Building your own Eruv, you have to know some more details. But besides that, we mentioned that you're not allowed to eat on top of the grass. You might cause it to grow. There's other issues of how you're going to keep your food hot, but yeah, camping is possible. As I said, we did a sort of deluxe sort of camping where they have existing, electricity and water and bathrooms and stuff like that. But it's possible. Yeah, you have to be a bigger Talmud Chacham. You have to learn more halacha.
Is
Yeah.
there a limit about the numbers of Eruv?
Each person gets one. You can extend your Eruv with one Eruv in one direction, not the other direction. You can't put 4 Eruvim. You understand? This is sort of like your makeshift new home.
Yes. but
Instead of this being your home.
You can do it on the other side also.
But then you have to choose. You have to choose. But
You need to make a choice.
the novel mind-bending idea was that reality can choose for you. If the rabbi actually comes here, this will come into effect. If the rabbi actually comes there, this one will come into effect. But you have to really have decided before Shabbat, this is my new home, wherever you put your Eruv.
Okay, but before Shabbat, I maybe I can have 10 or 20 roofs.
You have to, no, it has to be set. It has to be set. You can make it conditional based on something which will become revealed only later, that retroactively works, but it has to work retroactively. In other words, it becomes set. There's only one Eruv that works. Your home is either only in one place. Your place of residence is either here or there. You can't be residing in like Schrodinger's cat. Right? Yes, Pinchas.
Could I go to hotel Shabbat from Machon Meir?
Yes, because it's all within the city. There's always houses wherever you go. It's sort of like a continuum. One house, another house. There's never a large area which is empty, and you say, "Oh, it's a new city." Everything's within 2,000 amot of each other, and so it's all part of one city. And only when you go outside of the city do you have to worry about going beyond the perimeter. You understand?
Even the Arab neighborhood already has a roof, for example.
No. They only make an Eruv where there's Jews. So there's a problem making an Eruv with non-Jews. We spoke about it just before. So yeah, the Arab areas are not included in the Eruv usually, yeah.
If your house is in the 2,000 amot, you can still carry?
Carry or walk?
Like walk and carry?
To carry, you have to be within the first meaning of the word, eruv, right? The makeshift fence. If you want to walk, you have 2,000 amot from your house or from the end of your city, wherever you're, the last house in the city. Then you have 2,000 amot to walk without carrying anything.
You can carry in your house?
In your house, you can carry, yeah. In your house, you can carry. Okay. So you got it? 3 meanings of eruv so far? I'm saying 4. The 4th is coming. 1 we said is shouldn't really be called an eruv, but that's what everybody calls an eruv. It's the makeshift fence around a city, right? That's really should be called tzurat hapetach, but people call it an eruv. Second one is you have to join together the people with food. The people who live within the Eruv. You have Rishut HaYachid and another Rishut HaYachid that belong to 2 different people. They have to be joined by food, common food. Said usually it's matzah and shul. The rabbi of the community does the Eruv for the people of the town. Third meaning is what we just learned now. Eruv techumin, the boundary extension. And the 4th meaning is perhaps what most people know about. It happens every once in a while. It's not really having to do with Shabbat, it has more to do with Yom Tov. That's called an Eruv Tavshilin. Tavshilin means cooked dishes. It's about cooking on Yom Tov for Shabbat. When you have a Yom Tov on a Friday, and then comes Shabbat right afterwards, the rabbis didn't want you to, you know that on Yom Tov you're allowed to cook. Shabbat you're not allowed to cook. Yom Tov you're allowed to cook, but you're allowed to cook only for Yom Tov. But it's Erev Shabbat. You remember, they didn't always used to have refrigerators. So you had to have fresh food. You wanted to cook it as close to as possible to the Shabbat. But that's downgrading the holiness of Yom Tov. Solution is Eruv Tavshilin. What we do is we co-join the days before Shabbat to each other. So basically, Friday is Yom Tov. We start cooking for Shabbat on Thursday. We cook something for Shabbat on Thursday. And then you can continue. If you have some food ready for Shabbat already on Thursday, you can supplement it by cooking more for the Shabbat on Friday. But you're not starting from fresh to cook for Shabbat on Friday, because that would be prohibited. You can't prepare from Yom Tov to Shabbat. But if you make an Eruv Tavshilin, you combine the foods of Thursday, what you cook on Thursday, then you can continue to cook on Friday. So when it comes out that a Yom Tov falls out before Shabbat, I don't know when it happens next. Look on the calendar, the Jewish calendar, we'll see something. It happens every year, or 2 years, or 3 years. It happens that a Yom Tov falls out on a Friday. The rabbis tell everybody, this week before Yom Tov starts, before you light your candles, before the sun sets, you have an extra mitzvah. And you make a bracha. Baruch Ata Hashem, Elokeinu melech haolam, asher kitshanu mitzvah v'tzivanu, al mitzvat eruv. We use the same word, fourth meaning of the word eruv. Eruv, and then you basically set aside 2 foods. This time it doesn't, usually we use bread of some sort and egg. An egg, a hard-boiled egg that stays even if you don't have refrigeration, and it's something that you've cooked. Bread is also something you've baked. It has to be 2 cooked foods. It could also be a piece of chicken. You cooked up your chicken. Nowadays we have refrigerators. You put it in the refrigerator. You cook for Shabbat. And you take one of the pieces and you say, this is going to be my eruv. I started to prepare for Shabbat on Thursday, before Yom Tov starts. And if you're in Chutz La'aretz, 2 days Yom Tov, it happens more often, because what if you have 2 days of Thursday and Friday, you have to make the eruv tavshilin on Wednesday. You make it the day before Yom Tov starts, and then you're able to cook on Yom Tov for the Shabbat.
Okay. You mean outside Israel?
Yeah, outside of Israel, there's 2 days of Yom Tov, yes. Right, in most cases. The only one that's not 2 days, luckily, Yom Kippur. It's a 1 day, even in Chutz La'aretz. Yes, sir.
I have a question about that.
Sure,
Okay.
sure.
So I live in Israel now. I've lived in Israel for 18 months.
Wow, amazing. Good for
I
you.
love it here. I go back to visit family for, what's a good 2-day holiday?
Pesach.
Pesach. What do I do?
Good question.
Is Israel now, right?
Right. You ask your rabbi. And
Okay.
each case is a little bit different. That's why I don't want to give you a general answer.
Okay.
The rabbi will discuss with you what exactly the situation is. But it's a little complicated, because there's a law that says whenever you're in a town, you have to take on the customs of the town.
Okay.
At least publicly. Because if everybody else is, celebrating Yom Tov and you're, riding your car up and down the street with no exhaust and you're making noise, you're ruining the Shabbat for everybody, and you're showing that you're not a Jew. What, you're not a Jew? Oh, I'm from Israel. Oh, no, you have to publicly at least keep the Shabbat, the Yom Tov in this case. So it's a little more complicated, but it's a good question. Everybody got 4 meanings of eruv? You ready to be tested on that?
I want to ask this,
Yeah.
the food we prepare before the Yom Tov and before the Shabbat. This means let's say the cooked chicken is for Shabbat.
Right, you can eat it on Shabbat. Once you've got to Shabbat, you've already had your Yom Tov to cook.
Just only cook before the
Cook before Yom Tov starts.
Before Yom Tov starts.
Before Yom Tov
But
starts.
it's for Shabbat. It's not
Correct, but it's for
Yom
Shabbat.
Tov.
You have to save it for Shabbat, correct.
Is there 2 different kinds of food? Or?
Yeah, two kinds of food usually. Yeah, use 2 kinds of food. Yeah. Usually. I have to double check on that.
So what?
Hang on one second. Let me think. There's 2 types. I'm not sure it has to be 2 types. It hasn't been Yom Tov before Shabbat in a few years, maybe. I can't remember when the last time was, but I'll double check on that for you. Okay.
So what are the most common options? You mentioned egg, a boiled egg, and chicken leg, something.
Anything you want. People use usually an egg and matzah or a piece of chicken or anything. It's just preparing the Shabbat food early.
Matzah, you don't need to cook.
Somebody cooked it.
Okay.
Somebody baked it. All right. Even if you personally didn't, you're setting aside this is part of my food for Shabbat. So the preparation has been done. Even if you personally don't cook it.
For example, if I just prepare some candy, some cookies. There are.
It has to be cooked. It has to be cooked or baked. It has to be prepared.
But then I don't need to do anything. I just set aside.
This is an eruv, correct? That's right. You set it aside. That's right. The truth is, I'll tell you the. Don't tell anybody, okay? It's a secret. That's right. Don't tell anybody. It's a secret. The rabbi of the town makes an eruv tavshilin for everybody, just in case somebody forgets. Not only that, when everybody does their own eruv tavshilin, and you get to say a bracha, it's a mitzvah, why not? We say in the nusach, in the wording, we say, by this eruv, this beginning to prepare for Shabbat, I will be allowed to cook on Yom Tov, and everybody in the town everybody says it on behalf of everybody. So even if you forget, your neighbor said it for you, your rabbi said it for you, and so everybody can cook for Shabbat on Yom Tov. And so the truth is, I try to avoid cooking on Yom Tov too. Because Yom Tov for me, nowadays we have a refrigerator, the food's going to be fresh, it'll be delicious. And I'd rather be spending my time learning Torah, talking to my family, celebrating Yom Tov. I want to be slaving over the stove on my Yom Tov. So I prepare everything on Thursday. Everything. And then on Yom Tov, I don't cook it all, but I still make an eruv tavshilin. Why? Because there's some other things there's one thing that you must do on Yom Tov for Shabbat. What is it? Lighting candles. You light the candle. You can't light candles on Shabbat. You light candles before Shabbat starts. But it's Yom Tov. So you have to transfer the fire. Of course, you can't strike a match, but you can transfer the fire. But you're lighting a candle. So some people say that is a preparation for Shabbat. It's covered by the eruv tavshilin. So everybody should be saying an eruv tavshilin, even though I try to avoid cooking if I can. If we have extra guests that come all of a sudden for Shabbat, and on Friday afternoon I say, well, we're not going to have enough food, so you can cook. There's nothing, you just use transfer the fire, don't cook in a prohibited way. But there's many, many rules of Yom Tov. We'll talk about them another time. Yes?
So the difference between the boundary with the food, extending your boundary so you can go to the Rav, and this is, I can leave my jar of peanut butter and recover it after Shabbat. I don't have to eat the peanut butter.
Correct.
But with this, whatever I designate Thursday night, I have to eat on Shabbat?
No, you don't have to. You don't have to eat it. It's a nice thing.
Right.
If it's a yummy piece of chicken, if it's a yummy egg, it's a good thing, and it's even a mitzvah. You're partaking of it's an item with which you did a mitzvah, but there's no obligation to eat it on Shabbat. You cannot eat it on Yom Tov.
Right.
It has to stay in existence until Shabbat starts. But after, the custom, I think, in many communities is to eat it at the third meal, at the end of Shabbat. But you could eat it on Friday night too. It's once Yom Tov is over, then you can eat it. Yeah, you don't have to though.
About the eruv.
Yeah, which eruv? Which? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
Now, if you put the bread over there,
Extending your boundary, the eruv techumin, tchum, boundary, eruv tchumin, yeah. It's the title of the chapter 30, techumin. You should know the word. Tchum, it's boundary, yeah.
If you put the bread over there,
Yeah.
2,000 amot around the roof, every direction you want.
You can go from here. If this is your house, you have 2,000 in this direction, 2,000 in this direction, 2,000 in this direction, and 2,000 in this direction. Yes, all 4 directions. In this direction, you get lucky because you get to the city perimeter. And then once you're inside the city, you got the whole city to walk.
But can you do it 2 times, like you put the bread here, 2,000, you put
No, only one. You have only one extension in one direction. That's what Rabbi was asking also, yeah. Only one direction. Only one eruv, yes.
If this one, we apply using this communal bread.
This bread is only for you or for your friends. What, sorry?
And let's say I bring the bread there.
Yeah.
And the person from the other side come this side as well.
Yeah.
Middle, and we're having bread.
Yes.
Having meal.
Yes.
They can go over there. using this forming a partnership.
You don't need a partnership. If he can get here within his tchum, within his boundary, he can get here and have a meal. You can get there and have your meal, and you have a joint meal here. There's no problem. If you're both within your personal boundaries, but you don't have to be joined like in the first area. You're talking about the first area, yeah.
Just imagine you put some bread in the middle and you went to the town on the left.
Okay.
When you are returning, for example, before you reach the place of bread, you saw the bread is gone. What do you
It's a
do?
good question. It's a good question. What does he says here? Eaten by a cat. That's right. It was taken. I think it's still kosher because the point you're making this place your
left side, or you are not allowed, or you.
No, I think it's fine. This remains your place of residence. That's the idea. When Shabbat entered Friday afternoon, you defined this is my place of residence, and so from that you've got 2,000 amot in every direction. Even if food gets eaten up, it remains your place of residence for the entire Shabbat. It doesn't have to stay. I'm pretty sure. I should double check that too, but I'm pretty sure. Okay, now before we continue the laws of Shabbat, I want to, in honor of Yisrael who's here, and he's not going to be here for very long, I want to once again give you another test. But first I'll give you the answers. Okay, please pass these around. This is my latest version of the Masorah Menorah, which I shared with you. Basically, it's 7 eras of Jewish history. That's it. And I added 2 things. Who can notice what I added, other than making it a little bit nicer?
Numbers.
What did I add? The Mamelukes. Right.
No, I mean, you added this one. No,
The bottom right. The Mameluk. The Mamelukes were like slaves that were soldiers, and they became quite strong and independent. For many, many years, they ruled Egypt for hundreds of years. This sort of group of slave servants, slave soldiers. They were slaves, but they had an opinion.
Kind of converts. They are originally mostly Christians. They converted
To Islam. Yeah. So there were Islamic soldiers that became leaders. So I figured I'd throw it in there together with the Muslim. And also Byzantium I added in. We hadn't had that before. And I added the word Ottoman, which is many times used so to help you out. Basically it refers to the Turkish empire. It's called the Ottoman Empire. Is another word for it. Yes?
Mamluk or Mameluk?
Mamluk.
Is the border? Huh? Yeah.
I don't know exactly how to pronounce it. There were these mercenary leaders, basically, soldiers that were leading hundreds of years in Egypt primarily, but also in Turkey and other countries as well. Another thing I added. Who sees what else I added?
The Hittites, right?
Hittites were there. The Anshe Knesset Agdola. You see there in the 3rd period, the period of the 2nd temple.
Yeah.
Asmon.
Above that, right. Before that, all I had were the Kohanim and the Sofrim, and now I put in the men of the Great Assembly and the pairs, the Zugot. Right, the last of the pairs was Hillel, and then we have Tanaim after that in the next period, the period of the sages. But so these are terms which are commonly used, and I figured, even though I'm trying to keep this basic, bare bones outline of Jewish history and Jewish literature, as you can see at the top, the first line is not really according to the periods. Responsa, law codes, and commentaries 5, 6, and 7 there they go throughout. There was law codes and responsa in the period of the Achronim, just like there was in the period of the Rishonim, and but there are 7 terms. I figured we'll use the format for everybody to remember. And okay, so everybody have any questions on this? We've discussed it before. Okay, so now we're ready for the test. Ready to put your pages face down, and as a teacher, I like to make sure that I'm not just wasting my breath. I whited out, I erased a few of the terms for you to fill in. Fill in the blanks. Anybody else need one? One more? Who needs a pen? Does anybody need a pen? There's some over there. See what you remember out of all this. Try not to look at the answers. Right, in the second row, there's Hebrew and English. There's Hebrew. Sometimes I erase the Hebrew, sometimes I erase the English, and sometimes I erase the whole thing. Anybody have an extra pen? Oh, there's some here. Chaim, you have? Chaim? Oh, thanks. Pinchas, you have?
Yes.
Okay. It doesn't work? So Chaim has an extra. Oh, you got one. Okay. I'm going to send it in the WhatsApp group, the answers, the full table. Oh, we should add Chaim, right?
Of course. Thank you.
Is your name Chaim or Michael?
The name on my passport is Michael, but Chaim is
Oh,
my Hebrew name.
oh, nice.
Going to add. I took your number the other day, right? Yeah, I have it here. Yeah, okay. I got you added in.
Can we add stuff to that group? I have a primer on reading biblical Hebrew. That's really
Sure,
helpful for me.
terrific. Sure, please. I'm going to add Noach to the class as well. So, even though he's only on Zoom, such a dedicated follower, he can get the pages and stuff that we share here too. Once it's all filled in, you can pass it up. It's hard to remember things, huh? That's not all filled in, but what you did, what you could. Okay. Not bad for a first day in the job. You can look now.
This one I wrote underneath.
Okay, no problem. What does this say?
I don't know.
Oh, you don't know. Oh, okay. Yeah. Okay. Yes, good. Missing something here. Just missing one thing here. Very good. Excellent. Come look at it. It's interesting. It starts with the Zugot, Pirkei Avot.
And the forefathers is the same thing?
No. Avot, in the word Pirkei Avot, just means rabbis in the context.
Okay.
It has nothing to do with the forefathers. It just means the rabbis. It starts with the Zugot, the pairs,
Right.
and then goes into the rest are Tanaim, the pairs and the Tanaim. It's not literally the fathers that we call the forefathers. No.
We're going to study this better.
Yeah, okay. You keep studying and do it again, no problem. All right, let's, any questions? Okay. Now you got everything? Perfect. You got everything? No, not everything. Oh. So now, check it. Everybody, you can look at the answers and see what you didn't get, what you were missing.
This one I know, but I saw it accidentally.
Oh, okay. Well, it's just a teaching tool, really. It's not about a quiz. It's not really about testing you. It's a tool for you to learn. So now turn the page if you want to clarify or remind yourself and fix what you got wrong. Okay, Chaim, I think you got the exile there where it should have been the first temple. By accident. Yes. Not quite, not up to the exile yet. Exile was at the end of the first temple, it's true. But there was a short 70 years of exile. But
I think like all the people only behind him. Torah and the response are. The response is here.
Okay.
Nobody can
all
take
right.
out.
Okay.
But nowadays?
Yeah. Well, yeah. We'll keep talking about it, and you'll get. Hopefully, more things will go into your brain. Sat Hashem. But this is the menorah, the menorah. 7 periods. That's it. All of Jewish history. 3,500 years of Jewish history. You have it right here. You got to know the difference between Moshe Mendelssohn and Moshe Rabbeinu. And Moshe Maimonides. Okay?
Rabbi,
yes.
Under the category Talmud, why Midrash is before Mishnah?
They're in parallel. The Midrash actually was probably the method used before Mishnah. Mishnah, we spoke about it the other day a number of times, that Mishnah was a major revolution, an innovation of Rabbi Yehuda Hanassi that put together this new classification system of 6 orders. For Midrash, teachings, but they're ordered on the books of the Bible. And so that's the old order. That's why they come first, really. Although they're parallel in terms of who wrote them. The Tanaim and the Moraim are in the different Midrashim. But, yeah.
Is Midrash considered part of oral Torah?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Everything after 1, 2, and 3, right? Torah, Nevi'im, Ketuvim, is oral Torah. that gets written down in books.
Are Baraita part of oral Torah?
Baraita is part of oral Torah too, sure, yeah. That's not in the Tanakh.
Okay.
It's oral Torah. Right? Anything else is oral. Got written down at some point for the sake of history, so that we'd be able to be here today. We'd be able to study Torah until today. Can you imagine if everything was oral? We'd have very little remaining with us. The writing things down was very useful. Other questions? Hananel, how'd you do? How did you do on the quiz? You got a lot of them, or all of them, or some of them? 4 out of how many white spaces are there here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21. 4 out of 21. Got to work on it. Okay, so your homework for everybody is to do it like Rabbi did. He sat at home and he tried to memorize this, right? Right? You're still doing it. Good. It's helpful. It's very helpful. Whenever we study Torah, you'll be able to put it in a box. Right? Which box? First period, second period, third period, fourth, sixth, fifth, sixth, seventh. And of course, the most important box is not on here, right? What's the most important box? Exactly, the 8th period. 2022. Most important.
You're also an acronym, right?
Yes, some people say the Achronim period just continues till today. Some people say we actually have a different title. Acharonei Acharonim. The later ones. Some people give a title, Melaktim, gatherers, because we gather stuff.
And also so strange because you see after 500 years, now it's 2000.
Right, it's a new era, it's the new age, it's the age of the Aquarius. It's a new time. But I want to show you that, what I mentioned, that we think differently today. When we write books, I want to show you a little chart I made. One more chart. I'll share this in the WhatsApp group too, for those who are not in person. Pass these around, please. These are the various books, the major books of Jewish teachings throughout the ages. The last one on the page has not yet been completed. It's still being completed within the next few years. They keep saying that. For 50 years they've been working on this book, 60 years, and they haven't finished it yet. It's the Encyclopedia Talmudit, the Talmudic Encyclopedia. It's coming around. Pass the pages around. That's it's a whole new genre of literature. You hear me, Eitan? What we write differently today. Nobody today is going to say, "Oh, I'm going to make up a new Mishnah." The type of things we like to do is we have access now to so much information from so many years and manuscripts and books, and now we have it all digitized. We have to put it together in a new structure that we can access it. It's like what we call big data. Right? It's a whole new field. So the Encyclopedia Talmudic, the Talmudic Encyclopedia, is still being completed now. They've gone from Aleph, Bet, Gimel, Dalet. They're up to, I think, the letter Nun, the 50th volume. There are already 50 volumes of basically trying to summarize everything that was written since the Talmud, since the Midrash. The last 2,000 years of scholarship are being summarized in alphabetical order, by topic. Not by topic, but by alphabet, right? Like an encyclopedia. And this amazing, monumental work. That's why some people call us, in our age, milaktim. We're gatherers or sort of classifiers or whatever, that type of thing we do. Analyzers of big data. But we're not as creative as they were before. What do you see on this page? the different receptacles. The first, most important, of course, is the Tanakh. We talked about does anybody do this learning method? One chapter of Tanakh a day. They call the project. There's an international project now. People are all in the same chapter every day. How long does it take? The name of the project was called 929.
2 years.
A little more.
Yeah, probably.
Right? 365.
2.5 years.
How much?
Maybe 2.5 years.
2.5 years. 929 divided by 365. You do the math. But one chapter every day. 929. Second, of course, the Midrash. Halacha, the Midrash Haggadah. How come we don't have really a number of books? The Midrash.
Because you have too much.
No.
Because they're linked with the chapter of Tanakh.
Excellent. Good. It's the same structure as the Tanakh. There's a Midrash on Tehillim. There's a Midrash on Shmot. There's a Midrash on Devarim, right? So that's the structure. That's the organizational structure. These are all pretty much new structures. The Mishnah, of course, 63 tractates and 6 orders. Sum total 524 chapters. It's even shorter than the Tanakh. Maybe a little more dense. But the Talmud Bavli, it doesn't cover all of the Mishnah, only 37 out of the 63. And the common usage today, we use the structure has 2,711 pages. And if you do 1 page a day, what's that called? Daf Yomi. And how long does that take? Divide by 365?
7 years.
So a little more than 7 years, exactly. The Rabbi made a whole new restatement of the Torah, of the oral Torah. He put it in 14 books, 1,000 chapters. He was a master planner. I don't think it's an accident that it comes out to be precisely 1,000 chapters. Very cool. He took all the material from the Gemara and all the commentaries on the Gemara, and he put it into his halacha book in 1,000 chapters. Shulchan Aruch and the Tur, they have a new structure. It's only 4 columns, like instead of 14 books, it covers less material. It doesn't cover all the material, but as you can see, there's much more written. 1,700 chapters of Torah laws in this amazing code of Jewish law, just to show you. By the way, I don't know if you've noticed, but it's 400 years between each one. Amazing how we got every 400 years. Maybe there's something about a new way of thinking, it's a time for already a new restatement of the Jewish law. And the one which doesn't fit, but I put there because people get confused, especially beginners. Everybody knows there's a book in the English library. There's a book, it's been translated into over 30 languages. It's called the Kitzur Shulchan Aruch. It's not the same book as the Shulchan Aruch. It has only 221 chapters. You can see, compared to the 1,700 of the original, right? So it's called in English, I think the common translation is called the Concise Code of Jewish Law. But it says in the title the words Shulchan Aruch, so people get confused. It's a 1-volume work written by Reb Shlomo Gansfried in Hungary 150 years ago. And it's very practical, very good practical guide for people who want to practice, but it's not the Shulchan Aruch. Don't get confused. And I mentioned, as I started with, the Encyclopedia Talmudit is probably going to be 66 volumes when they finish. It follows the letters of the alphabet.
Famous edition from Rabbi Steinsaltz.
Of what?
The Talmud Bavli. Where does that fit?
It's the Talmud Bavli. He keeps the same pages, 2,711 pages, but he adds his commentary. Instead of he has Rashi and Tosfot like most Gemaras have. I have one on my page. Right, the next class that I teach now is a class in Talmud Bavli. So this is the first volume. Talmud Bavli, that's what it says here. And you open up, you have in the middle, the big black letters, is the Mishnah and the Gemara. See here the Gimel Mem, that's the beginning of the Gemara. Here you see Mem, Taf, Nun, Yud, the Taf and the Shin switch. Told you. So this is a short Mishnah, 4 lines of Mishnah, and then the Gemara starts, Gimel Mem. So the Mishnah and the Gemara is in the middle of the page after page after page. They all look similarly. On the inside, you have Rashi's commentary. On the outside, you have something called Tosafot, which were written in the... Which period? Rashi and Tosafot? Rishonim, excellent. But in addition, you have, in the margins, you have some other commentaries by Acharonim. Some are Rishonim and some are Acharonim. For example, Rabbi Akiva Eger. It's called Gilyon Hashas. He is an Acharon. Here it is. Rabbi Akiva Eger. So this is the standard page of Talmud. Rabbi Steinsaltz puts on the same page of Talmud his commentary. He's an Acharon. So he makes it very readable, very easy, it's great explainer. But it doesn't change really the structure of the Talmud. The truth is, his first version of the Talmud, he couldn't fit it all on one page. So he took one side and made it into 2. So, because he couldn't fit it all on one page, with all the Rashi and all the Tosfot, he didn't want, and all the footnotes, and he didn't want to leave anything up, but he wanted to add, so he needed more space. So he put one page on 2 pages. And so, but it says on the top of the page, both of these are this page, with the number, each page is numbered, right? So, he didn't really create a new structure. He just sort of needed more space. Okay? All right, let's go back. We have one of the most important chapters now, chapter 22. Back to the laws of Shabbat, spirit of Shabbat. In Pnina Halacha, chapter 22. Let's read from the beginning. Chapter 22, page 131. Yeah, we have 5 more chapters that we skipped over, like we did because of the 4 meanings of Eruv. I wanted to give you the different meanings together. Carrying and walking outside the Eruv are similar prohibitions where you're not actually doing work. But so I put them together. But now we're going to finish up. We have a few more chapters we have to speak about. Chapter 22 is perhaps one of the most important. Okay? Hanan El, can you read for us, please?
First day of the Torah command us to refrain from Melacha on Shabbat, but the 7th day is Shabbat of the Lord your God. You shall not do any Melacha. There is any of the 39 types of Melacha done while erecting the Mishkan, as explained to Moshe at Sinai. The second added
safeguards.
And so that no one would do anything that might then lead to the violation of the Torah prohibition.
Okay, thank you. So this is everything we learned up till now, right? 39 categories of work, whatever is called work. What did we say, Pinchas? That perhaps it's better defined as creative work, constructive work. We saw the parameters, only if you intend to do it, only if you do it in the normal way. All these different types of work is prohibited on Shabbat. Melacha. There's one more aspect of Shabbat that we haven't spoken about yet. Aaron, continue please. There's an additional commandment in the Torah, and that is to rest.
To rest on Shabbat. 6 days you shall do your work, but on the 7th day you shall cease. The point here is that in addition to avoiding Melacha on Shabbat, we are also made to cease and rest from toils and troubles. Thus, one should not open his door or move heavy objects in preparation for the work week. Even though these are not included in the 39 prohibited categories of Melacha. Nevertheless, acting in these ways negates the mitzvah of resting on Shabbat.
Good, keep going, yeah.
Continue with this line of thought. We find the prophets enjoining us to preserve the holy and sanctified atmosphere of Shabbat, a day on which one must avoid mundane activities. One who is careful to follow this merits great rewards, as Yeshayahu proclaims.
Now this section from Yeshayahu, many people recite it every Shabbat and the Kiddush in the morning. What do we say at Kiddush in the morning? Does anybody recall? No, in the morning. That's at night. Bore Pri Geffen, true. What else? What do we say? Vishamru. Some people start Vishamru. What else people say? Zachor at Yom Shabbat. You've heard that? Some people started even earlier, and they recite these verses from Isaiah, the top of page 132. In Hebrew, it's Im tashiv mi Shabbat reglecha, asot chafatzecha b'yom kutshi, v'karata l'Shabbat oneg, likdosh Hashem mechubad, וכיבדתו מעשות דרכיך ומצוא חפצך ודבר דבר, אז תתענג על השם, וקרבתיך על במות הארץ והאכלתיך, נחלת יעקב אביך, כי פי השם דיבר. What is that in English? Aaron.
If you refrain from trampling the Shabbat, from pursuing your affairs on my holy day, if you call Shabbat delight, the Lord's holy day honor, and if you honor it, and not go in your own way, nor look to your affairs, nor speak of them, then you will seek the Lord's delight. I will set you astride the heights of the earth, and let you enjoy the heritage of your father Yaakov, for the mouth of the Lord has spoken.
Wow, so what a beautiful promise. If you honor the Shabbat and you don't trample the Shabbat, then you get blessings. You enjoy the heritage of your father Yaakov. Heights of the earth. Sages derive many guidelines about Shabbat from this verse. The common denominator is that one should not behave on Shabbat as one does during the week. Other than the list of 39 categories of work, we're also supposed to behave differently. And we mentioned this before, honoring the Shabbat with your Shabbat clothes should be different. Let's read it together from the Talmud. Chaim, I remember yesterday you read as you had a great voice for. Did you do public radio ever? Did you do?
That was my dream.
Really?
It was.
You got a voice for it. It's good.
I listened to CBC and NPR growing up.
CBC. All right, Canadian. Yeah.
Honoring. Your Shabbat clothes should not be like your weekday clothes. Not go in your own way. The way you walk on Shabbat should not be like the way you walk on weekdays. Nor look to your affairs. It is forbidden to look after your own affairs on Shabbat, but one may look after the affairs of heaven, example, religious matters, nor speak of them. Your speech on Shabbat should not be like your speech on weekdays. Speaking about mundane matters is forbidden, but thinking about them is permitted.
Okay, so this is a little section of the Talmud. They take each word of the verse from Isaiah, not speak of them. When we have to see the details of how that works out. We're going to skip a little bit. Obviously, you don't do business on Shabbat. Besides the fact that you might write, which is one of the 39 forbidden activities, it's going about your weekday affairs. You're not resting if you work on Shabbat. It's quite a challenge. It's quite a challenge. I have a few students who are into the field called cyber security. It's a new field. And they're coming up, they live in Israel, they're coming up against trouble. Many of the companies say, we need you 24/7. We need you to work on Shabbat. They call me begging. I say, no, you can't work on Shabbat. Maybe you have to find another job. Someone's got to do it for the army. That's something else. For security, you can violate the Shabbat to protect a life. But most of the cybersecurity is not protecting anybody's life. They're protecting people's money and their websites and from attacks from all sorts of hackers. But you can't work on Shabbat. Sorry. Yes, Ravi, what did you want to add on that?
What's about buying property or real estate on Shabbat? We talked about that.
Yeah, it's also forbidden. You're not allowed to.
We can go to Goy.
Ah, special, beautiful law.
Also kind of business.
Yes, of course. Even signing a contract to Torah law, you can't write on Shabbat. But we come into conflict with another great mitzvah. What's the great mitzvah? To live in Israel. To own a house in Israel. To live in it. So the sages say we're going to be willing to be flexible for the sake of the other mitzvah, only to allow you to do rabbinic prohibitions. What's the rabbinic prohibition we spoke about many times? Asking a non-Jew to do work for you on Shabbat. So you can ask a non-Jew to sign for you on a contract if you're going to lose the deal otherwise. But no, that's a very special halacha, which is a Zionist halacha, right?
Not in Hebrew is better?
And that doesn't really make a difference, no. It's still forbidden to write in English or Chinese or Mandarin or Cantonese. It doesn't make a difference. Okay?
Or a seal is better than writing your signature?
No, that's also prohibited. It's also prohibited to make a seal. Yeah.
How about those, let's say, the business or vending machine?
Good question. Comes up later. Comes up a little bit later. Things that are automized, that go automatically. It's a good question. Many people have a website. Website works 24/7. How is that allowed? You're working on Shabbat. Fine, I'm not doing anything, but your website is maybe making money. People go in from all over the world. Here I am on YouTube. Fine, I won't be live on Shabbat, but all the shiurim are archived. Believe it or not, I know people who they live by themselves and they don't have a community, and they're growing in their Shabbat observance. And they told me that on Shabbat, I only watch shiurim. It's a paradox, right? What am I supposed to say to them? Is it better they watch movies? If they're going to be watching something, they live by themselves, they have no community there. It's very strange. It's very strange, but we're going to talk about it a little bit later, okay?
It's also forbidden to carry a pencil with you on Shabbat.
That's right. That's right. You're not allowed to move it. It's mukta. That's the next chapter. So there's many derivatives of business that you're not allowed to do business. You're not allowed to sign contracts, of course. But even to give a gift. Give a gift on Shabbat. Usually, unless you're going to be, making them partners, to actually make a transaction that possession should change hands is problematic on Shabbat. The great rabbi that just passed, Rabbi Druckmann, my Rosh Yeshiva when I was 17, 18, 19 years old. Whenever he was also the rabbi of the town, whenever he gave the bar mitzvah boy a gift, Shabbat morning, this is the custom, bring the bar mitzvah boy, you speak to him, and you teach him some words of Torah, you charge him with his task in life to be a good Jew, and you give him a gift on behalf of the community. It's wonderful. He said to them, you can't give a gift on Shabbat. Yes?
Sometimes in Netherlands, Shabbat, I receive post, because I ordered some things. But it's not allowed to open it?
Right, it's not allowed to open it, yeah. You're probably post in the Netherlands is delivered by non-Jews.
Yes.
So nobody really violated and they're doing their job for their own sake. They're not doing it for you. But to open post is muktzah. We're going to talk about it.
Package, like a present.
Right, I understand. Yes, Rabbi.
Okay, just suppose you invite me on Shabbat and I come to your home and I bring a bottle of wine.
Are you hinting?
Sorry?
Are you hinting?
Maybe. So I take a bottle of wine as a present for you.
That's so very nice of you. Maybe I'll invite you now. So that's why you should give the wine before Shabbat starts.
So you can never bring
But if you don't, or you can say it's not a gift to you. I'm sharing with you my wine. It's mine. It remains yours. But I allow you to drink from my wine. It doesn't have to be actual possession that's handed over. But
Because is that allowed? Sometimes you go to Shabbat, you bring something for the table.
Yeah, it's fine. If it's for the table, so then you're sharing with them, and you're not actually giving the transfer of ownership. So it's allowed. Yeah.
Rabbi, yes, a question. I can walk.
If there's an eruv, you can bring your wine on Shabbat. If there's no eruv, you can't carry it. Yeah.
I can walk as much as I want within the permitted radius, right?
Within the city.
Yeah.
And 2,000 amot beyond.
Yes. Exactly.
Without carrying, you can walk anywhere.
Is there any spiritual meaning to this? Because in some prayers, when the Hazan recites a blessing for the Ole, he says something like, "May your property be near the city," and so on and so on. So
That's
there's
right.
something special about being
right.
at the city.
Good point. Good point. Not only is there a special meaning, perhaps that is the original and most important meaning of Shabbat in general, because the Torah tells us that you're not allowed to leave your space, your residence on Shabbat. Basically, it was just the 50th anniversary of the death of a great Torah teacher. His name was Avraham Yehoshua Heschel, who wrote a book called, he wrote over 30 books, but his most famous one is the book called The Sabbath, in which he describes as Shabbat as just like the temple was architecture in space. Shabbat is architecture in time. We have 6 days, and the 7th day. It's a beautiful idea, but one of my rabbis told me it's wrong. Because it's not only in time. On Shabbat, we're actually supposed to create holy space as well. Our place of residence turns into a temple. And that's the deep meaning of what we say. You're not allowed to leave that space. And you're supposed to be creating this sort of a bubble of holiness, a place where you reside in holiness on the Shabbat. So there's deep meaning of this idea that you're not allowed to go beyond the boundaries. But we have to stop here for today, and the B'ezrat Hashem, we'll continue with chapter 22 tomorrow.